Deadly explosion in an Orange County medical building today may have been intentional. The feds reportedly believe tonight it may have been caused by a package bomb. A woman died in the blast. 3 others were injured.
Local investigators called in the feds for help, and tonight one agent has told the Associated Press it looks like a bomb was to blame. KCAL9's Tom Wade is live tonight in Aliso Viejo with the latest on the investigation. Tom.
And Susie and Jeff, I can tell you right now, these are very big developing details in this case. It's not clear exactly what evidence they have recovered here that would lead them to these conclusions, but certainly right now it does appear that they think this is intentional and that it was, as you said, a package bomb. A lot of federal and local authorities still here on the scene. They just pulled up the OC Sheriff's Department Command Center out here, so they are not going anywhere anytime soon as you kind of get a look at the scene as it is tonight. Again, authorities here still trying to piece this all together as they gather that evidence. Photos from inside the blast zone shows the extensive damage done by the explosion. The ceiling is collapsing, chunks of insulation are dangling from the walls, and debris is strewn across the room. Smoke can be seen pouring out of the building in this cell phone video shot in the immediate aftermath. All of this unfolded just after 1 this afternoon at 11 Mariblu in Aliso Viejo. 1 person died, 3 others were taken to the hospital. A witness says this screenshot shows the injured women before they were taken to the hospital.
And saw 2 women come out full of blood, hair singed, just glass stuck to their hair, glass stuck to their bodies. Their skin was burnt and peeled back.
People in buildings next door and across the street felt and heard the blast.
Waiting for the doctor, and there was an explosion, and it kind of shook the ground. Boom! And I kind of my neck jolted and hit the wall.
I was ironically in an anxiety group when it took place, and it was right up in that corner, and we heard a big explosion. It shook the whole entire building.
Dozens of children at a preschool across the street were taken to a nearby Target. Parents were reunited with their kids there.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Just very, very emotional. I'm just happy everybody's safe.
There's heavy damage on the first floor corner of the building, walls and windows blown out. Units on scene were quickly able to assess and mitigate the hazard.
Yeah, they did get the fire out that resulted from the explosion, as you saw in that cell phone video, very quickly here, and there was no one else that was injured in the area. But certainly tonight, their work is cut out for them as they try and piece this all together, because the next big question is, who did this? If there is someone who indeed sent a package bomb or an explosive contained in some sort of package, that means there's a suspect out there, presumably. We did ask about that earlier at the last press conference. Police and investigators who were there said they were not identifying anyone at that point, but that could be because they're just keeping this investigation under wraps at this point.
Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun channel. Usually when I report things, it doesn't happen in my backyard. Well, this story here that I just played for you, this happened today, or I guess it was yesterday now as I record this, May 15th, 2018, and basically, as you saw, an explosion went off, and 1 person was killed, and 3 were injured. And this took place, again, very close to where I am, and I'm not going to give away exactly where I live, but there is some weird patterns that form. And of course, that can just be pure coincidence, but either way, I can use some of your prayers, guys. Let me share for you some of the things that are interesting about this event, other than the fact that the authorities don't really know, or at least they're not telling us what they know about, where this package might have come from, what the motivations were, how this even happened. But the thing that I'm going to mention here that, again, may or may not have anything to do with the actual explosion, it's just one of those things to point out because it's interesting. And honestly, I've been trying to think of ways to include this thing that exists right in my backyard here and talk about it on the channel. I just haven't really had a chance to do it. This is a good chance because this Ziggurat, the Chet Holyfield building, is about a mile from where this explosion took place. And interestingly enough, there is an investment firm that also has a building that resembles kind of a pyramid without the top, called Zion Enterprise. So just some interesting coincidences, I suppose. But when you dig into some of the things that are here, it's just very bizarre. First off, of course, if you guys don't know what a ziggurat is, It's an ancient Mesopotamian structure that's believed to be sort of a step pyramid. And according to Ducksters.com, which is an education site, quote, "The Ziggurat was a temple to the main god of the city. Each city in Mesopotamia had a primary god. For example, Marduk was the god of Babylon, Enki was the god of Eridu, and Ishtar was the goddess of Nineveh. The Ziggurat showed that the city was dedicated to that god. At the top of the Ziggurat was a shrine to the god. The priests would perform sacrifices and other rituals here. They built them high because they wanted the shrine to be as close to the heavens as possible." And what's really interesting is that the coordinate for the Ziggurat building, of course, is on the 33rd degree north latitude and 117 degree west longitude. And actually, if you look at this number and you do the numerical folding, it all folds to the number 9, which is, of course, the intersection of 9 and 9 being the number that is thought to have the unlocking powers of free energy and all that stuff, right? So, and let me demonstrate that for you real quick. You have 3, 3, that's 6, 6, and 6 is 12, 12 plus 4 is 16, 16 plus 2 is 8, that is 1, 8. Add that together, it collapses down to 9. Same thing with the longitude. You have 117, which equals 9, 4 and 2, which is 6. You add that together, and you have 15. 15 plus 12 is 27, and 2 plus 7 is 9. It collapses down to 9. So basically, 9 by 9 is the spot of the Ziggurat. Isn't that really interesting? And of course, if you keep reading here, the building was originally constructed for Rockwell International, a defense and space industries manufacturer. Rockwell never completed the building. The company no longer required it after a defense contract that it was relying on never came to fruition. The company offered to trade the building to the United States federal government in exchange for 3 surplus government facilities of equal value. In 1974, GSA assumed control of the building. And in 1978, the U.S. Congress passed a bill to rename the building in honor of Congressman Chester E. or Chet Holyfield, who had represented California's 19th District from 1943 to 1974. Today, the building's primary tenants are the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the Internal Revenue Service. So there you go. This interesting ziggurat, which sits not a mile from where this explosion took place. And this man, Chet Holyfield, he's a mysterious figure. You know, he's got some interesting things mentioned about him. There were rumors about this whole thing being a part of an underground base. And for, those of you who are into the conspiracy analysis, there is also a Walmart that is right behind the ziggurat, and it all sits on a hill, and the whole area is very military-industrial complex-like in general. So, but yes, this Chet Holyfield guy, I found his name mentioned in a book called One Nation Underground, The Fallout Shelter in American Culture. It's basically from this gpo.gov PDF here, where Chet Holyfield challenges or has this conversation, or I guess in this paper, they're talking about the committee that's about to take place, the atomic energy and radioactive fallout after a nuclear weapons explosion. And I just think it's interesting that they picked this guy to be the guy to represent the ziggurat. And now, pertaining to this general area here, Aliso Viejo has been pretty much compromised to, you can call it the quote-unquote globalists or the internationalists. They are part of the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, which we've been talking about on this channel for a few years now. And, none of us voted for this or anything like that. I mean, this just came about because, peace on earth, right? And if you look at one of their documents here, their green document, Aliso Viejo was incorporated in 2001, and they are part of the Green City Initiative, which plans to implement the City Council's vision for Aliso Viejo as a leader in sustainable practices. Sustainable practices. What does that sound like? Sustainable development. In fact, later in the document, they just straight up say, and use those buzzwords, Land Use Initiative. Number 1, the city should develop and implement an incentive program for residents, business owners, and developers of new projects and redeveloped property that is intended to encourage sustainable development and to promote use of clean air technologies. This is all part of the agenda, folks. I'm living in the heart of it here. And it's just kind of nuts. And, I got into a little discussion with someone on Twitter who said, hey, tell me why this UN agenda is so bad. Why is it so bad to take care of the Earth? And really the point here, without even getting into all the details, think about it. China, which is openly communist, right? They're all about this. They're all about the 2030 agenda. Okay, they're on board. And if you think about what's happening more recently here, you have US, one of 5 countries to oppose UN Environment Pact. And this was published May 11th, 2018 on EcoWatch. And this is supporters see the pact as a way to continue the work of the Paris Agreement and the 2030 UN goals for fighting poverty and protecting the Earth. Right? So the US under Donald Trump is trying to move away from this agenda, and not that, I don't think his plan is necessarily that great either. It's kind of to rebuild on our own and create our own sort of, strengthen our own United States military industrial complex once again. So it's a good and bad kind of thing where he's like, well, let's play the game and let's appropriate those funds where they ought to go if you're not going to, give it to the people, so to speak. And I bring this up because, we live in this time where there's so much chaos happening all over the place. When it comes literally into your backyard, where, this is gnarly. This bomb went off, not too far from where I live, folks. And here are the helicopters that were hanging out outside. And they were all just sitting there stationary. And, so, look, folks, things are going to go down. There's only one thing that's going to free us. It's the gospel message of Jesus Christ. Know Him and know the truth. The truth will set you free. And, you'll start seeing all this stuff for what it is. You're not going to be freaked out about it. Of course, you go through those phases, but eventually you get to a point where you're like, yeah, of course, this is all the stuff. All the stuff of the fallen world. But, we have our hope in something that's going to replace and fix all this. And, of course, we have to be part of that process as well. But, it's not something that happens outside in. We're not going to be able to fix all this through just policy or rules or laws or anything like that. Even the blockchain, as optimistic as people are about the blockchain, it's going to be used and do good for some purposes, but when you talk about the UN 2030 agenda and how they want to keep track of everybody biometrically and basically track every aspect of your lives, how much data you consume, how much energy you consume, how much stuff you emit, and things like that, how much waste do you create, all that stuff. You don't want some world institution to be tracking all that stuff. For what? It's just so invasive. It's so dehumanizing. And I think that's what people don't understand is like the goal here of these organizations is to clean up the world. But in the process, they're actually making things worse. And we know this. You look at the history of the UN. They go into other third world countries, promise all these things, build all this stuff, and then leave. And the people of that nation are starved. And, this has happened over and over again, but the evil of the human heart persists. And so it's not a systematic thing. So again, prayers out to the people that were affected by this. Luckily, it wasn't something widespread. Of course, one person lost their lives. 3 people were injured. No children were hurt. But this did go off right next to a school. So this is a little bit freaky in terms of what potentially might have been. But praise God that it wasn't anything bigger than it was. It's already unfortunate. I'm sure I missed a number of things to discuss regarding the Ziggurat and how it ties together with more things. And again, I can dive into some of that stuff another time. But I wanted to share some of this with you because it just happened and it was right here in my neck of the woods. Have an awesome day, guys. God bless.